Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Wordness to the Nerdness podcast, the show where nerdy guys talk about the history of games, movies, TV, and everything else in the nerdy universe today. You can currently find our podcast on podcast services worldwide, and you can come catch us on YouTube now. Small plug real quick for the show, though. Those of you listening, whatever platform you choose, please do us a favor. If you're able to review it or like the podcast, please do. We definitely appreciate all your support by just tuning in, but help us reach out to more people as well. You know, the more likes we get, the more 5-star reviews we get, you know, the more it'll promote it in there, and we can get to more people. So do us a favor. If you listen right now, just take a second and put it in there. We definitely appreciate it. But enough about that. Today's episode is all about Bungie. Just in time for the expansion coming out next Tuesday, October 1st, not forced. Shadowkeep will be releasing, and this episode isn't going to be crazy long because there isn't enough. Well, there is enough to talk. It's not that there's not enough to talk about Bungie, because there's a lot. But I'm going to break this episode into 3 parts, and we are going to start with part 2, which is this one. So it'll be interesting. But it'll be part 1 will be Bungie up through the end of Halo. Part 2 will be this, that covers vanilla Destiny and everything leading up to it. And then part 3 will cover all Destiny 2, and then probably go into some Shadowkeep stuff later on down the road. So it'll be released out of order, but we'll cover the whole thing, and it'll all go together once it's all said and done. If you're listening to this, probably not a month, probably 6 months from now, it'll all be there. It'll be good. But before we dive into this show, though, and before I forget, let me introduce you to our show hosts. I'm Nathan Grote, and to my top left, I have got the 9th great wonder of New Jersey, Sean Mahoney.
New Jersey.
Jersey. Jersey boy. And then I've got Austin, Texas, latest featherweight boxing champion, Curtis Potter.
What's up?
And last but not least, I got the dog whisperer, Sam Benny.
I'm focusing right now. I'm doing my signature with the mouse, and it's very difficult.
Oh. Sean, you're going to have to correct me, though. I could have swore that you were, just at, aren't you right at the edge?
No, I'm on Long Island, man. I'm, all the way east.
Oh, shit. Well.
And I'm from San Antonio, too. So.
What the fuck?
Did I say Austin? God damn it.
Yeah.
I knew there was an A in it.
Just double over yourself and post.
Yeah.
I'll just add the beeps. I'll just beep, beep.
No, just do your voice saying San Antonio over me talking.
Yeah.
From San Antonio.
I'll get the Siri recording of it, San Antonio, and put it in there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. I could do that. Get it all in post. How's you guys' week? What you all been up to?
Oh man, too much.
Yeah.
Went to Arizona on a bachelor party.
Oh yeah, that's right. How was that?
Last weekend. It was sick. It was actually a really good time.
Good.
Stayed in a multi-million-dollar mansion. It was nuts.
Damn.
And then this weekend, no rest for the weary. We had 2 parties, and then yesterday I went to the MLB Food Fest in New York.
Okay.
And it's basically all 30 teams. Their stadiums bring an iconic dish from their stadium to this food fest, and you get to try all 30 of them. It's crazy.
Did
really
you
cool.
try the burger that was put on Krispy Kreme donuts?
There wasn't that. Kansas City brought a barbecue burger, which was pretty bomb. It had
Yeah.
pulled pork on it and stuff. It was really good.
Ooh.
But then Arizona, they brought a churro dog on a split donut. It was a churro on a donut with a scoop of ice cream. It's just too much.
That's pretty low calories.
Sounds like a heart attack.
It was totally a low calorie day.
It was negative calories.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty eventful though. That's pretty eventful. I was at a wedding this last weekend out in Kansas City, and I was able to go out to the Chiefs game following that. So another win
Oh,
for the
snap.
Chiefs. Super exciting, but it was really wet. It was like raining the whole time. It's
Oh,
kind of
shit.
miserable, but you know.
The Chiefs
Other than
remind me a lot of the Jets.
How's that? How do they remind you of the Jets? Please explain that to me before I lose
The
it.
way the Chiefs win is like the way the Jets lose. Like that's how good they are.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
Like no
enough.
matter what, the Jets will always find a way to lose.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, man. Patrick Mahomes can't be stopped. I'm
Did
excited.
not.
Well,
I'm
I got
excited.
to see the inspiration for our logo design again. I went to Meow Wolf out in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh,
Oh,
dope.
yeah.
What spurred that design? So it's pretty
That's
crazy.
like
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole art, like movement thing, right?
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a funhouse treehouse for adults, / acid trip. I've never done acid, but
Oh hell yeah!
that's what everyone says it's like. So
gotta go
if that's
there
what
on
it's like,
acid?
then I don't know if you could. I'm sure being there on acid would be bad news, but
I'm sure some people pull it off.
yeah, it's a pretty drug-free state, so kinda
Fair,
boring, but
fair.
But the Denver one that they're gonna open up, everything's
Yeah.
good.
Everything's
But
everything's good to go there.
Mhm.
Wow,
it's good times.
but that's good.
What about you, CU?
I
He's
guess
lost
he's
in the
he's
sauce.
lost. He's lost in it.
I'm listening. I was just thinking. I've been playing Borderlands a lot, and Gears 5 a lot.
Oh.
Those are good games.
Nice.
Without
Still grinding
going
Smash on the side. I'm actually getting good now.
without
Like,
going
actually-
into many spoilers with Borderlands, like how far into it do you think? Like what do you think of it so far?
I'm not super far in,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like exactly what you'd want from Borderlands. If you like
Yeah.
Borderlands, like, play the game.
Fair,
It's
fair.
humorous. The story's enjoyable. I mean, and then there's lots of guns. That's
Yeah,
all you
I
need.
definitely-
So basically, it's good. It's not a flop.
It's nowhere near a flop. It's extremely
Thank
fun
God.
and really, it's a fun game.
Nice.
If you like
I-
Borderlands, play it. If you don't like Borderlands, there's something wrong with you. So you
My-
just leave.
My backlog is building from like games that are releasing. Like you're saying, there's the Link's Awakening, which I don't know if or when I'm gonna buy that. Only because I fear that it's never gonna go down from that $60 mark, and I just don't know if I want to pay $60 for that game. But we'll see.
I would also wait until they patch it. They have some frame rate issues right now.
Oh really?
It's all
Yeah,
right.
it'll like it's 60 frames and it'll drop to like 30, and it's not the
Ooh.
worst thing, but it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I haven't experienced too much for what I've been playing, but
Yeah.
I've noticed a few times, but it's been nothing that's like really hurt my experience. I think it's more when you're playing co-op with people, but that's more in-game stuff anyways, you know? Story you kind of trudge through solo for the most part. Unless you want to play with friends, I mean, it depends, but I mean, it's really enjoyable. Like, Groat being such a person that likes Destiny so much, like,
Yeah.
it shocks me that you haven't played Borderlands, because going into Destiny, like, I was expecting Halo Borderlands. That's what I really wanted, and that's not
Right.
really what we got, you know?
Yeah.
In some respects, it was. There
I
was
I definitely
a
am gonna
little-
hop. Go ahead.
a little bit into the game, not very far, but there's a little Destiny Easter egg, and it's pretty.
Really?
It's pretty troll.
Uh-oh.
You want to hear it?
I'm trying.
It's not like it won't spoil anything, but it's like
I don't know if it'll spoil
It's a-
anything for me. I don't necessarily care, but I feel like there are other people that might. So let's not give away what it is.
Yeah. It's a pretty troll dig at Destiny. I won't lie.
Damn. I'm definitely interested in doing it, and I just been like this weekend. I was out of town and just been like busy with a bunch of other stuff going on. It's just been hectic. So I'm hoping to get back into it. I'm actually like nervous because like with the way things have been going, I've been like kind of like trying to work on some stuff at work. So I got like inventory coming at the end of the month in October. But on top of that, I'm like trying to work and possibly be at another branch next year. So doing all that, I'm like, man, am I gonna even have time to play Destiny, like Shadowkeep? Like,
Crazy, right?
I'm going through that in my mind right now. It's just this backlog keeps building up. I'm like, crap, I need to do that. I should be
You still
fine.
have to play The Witcher.
God, don't get me started on that. If we're gonna go back that far, I'll just shut off life for 60 days, and I'll get halfway through my backlog.
At least you beat
Yeah, the
Minecraft.
only reason, the only
That's
reason
true.
I caught up on the Switch is because I was stuck on a flight. I had nothing else to do. So.
Right.
Oh man.
That's the
I
best
got
part.
Pokemon X for my flight. Like, dude, I have no idea what the hell any of these things are. Like
Well,
my starter Pokemon's like some bitch ass shit. Like it's like
Which one did you pick? Which one did you pick?
I think he's grass, but he's like I don't want to say it because
It's Grassimon?
but he sucks ass. Yeah, no, he's like
You should have picked Froakie, bro. That was your mistake. You didn't go Froakie.
Who's that?
The frog, the water one.
Oh, snap. Yeah, I saw like there's like a hexagon next to a hexagon. It's like B something.
Yeah, there's like
That's
water.
From, like, Gen 4.
I'm
It's
like,
like-
what is this thing?
Well, you always get like the
So
3
you
stars.
picked
You get
Chespin,
Grassymon,
Yeah,
Firemon, and Watermon. Like those are the
Watermon.
first 3 that you.
Yeah, I
Dude,
did
Froakie's dope because he starts out as a cute little water frog, and then he becomes like a cool like ninja frog, and like he has a cool scarf.
Fuck.
But the scarf is his tongue, dude. It's so sick.
Does the grass one evolve into anything cool, or am I stuck like with this?
He's not half bad. He's probably the second best from that one in my
Alright, cool.
opinion.
If his scarf is his tongue and then his like mouth's always open, how does he talk?
Don't worry, he
I
doesn't.
know.
He doesn't actually.
Yeah, how does he say its own name?
He's actually in. If you saw Detective Pikachu, they're actually in it, and they're really cool and creepy because it's
Yeah.
gross. Because this dude's just got his tongue out, bro. Here, I'll
That
see
is
if-
kind of
like,
vile.
Yeah.
But Sean, if you keep going a little bit, you'll get a Kanto starter, and you can get your Bulbasaur. And if you get
Hell
Venusaur, you get
yeah.
Mega Evolution. And the Venusaur, bro, when you Mega Evolve, he gets a big flower on his butt, and it's great.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, dude,
Oh,
it's
for
amazing.
ass flowers.
Dude, gotta love those flowery asses. You know what I'm talking about?
I just want like the old school like Scyther and stuff, like the cool ones.
Yeah, those are still in there. You just gotta find where they are. You know?
Well,
Then it was worth it.
before this devolves into a Pokemon podcast, let's get back to the topic on hand. And like I said earlier,
But
this
see,
is
I wore my Halo World Championship shirt.
there you go, just for Bungie. But like I said
competed
earlier,
once we got
this
first
is
rounded.
this is part 2 of 3, and as we dive into the history of Bungie, we're releasing on the Star Wars schedule, so it's out of order. I admit it isn't going to be as polished as most, but I will leave you all with enough info to scratch your heads on what the hell was going on with Bungie when they released the Mixed Feelings Destiny game in September 2014. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about it because our whole group was founded on Destiny. I mean, the only reason why we all know each other is because of Destiny. So it's very personal to all of us. But the game released to a lot of mixed reviews. There's a ton of people out there bashing the game. I was definitely on the opposite end of that ladder. I was obsessed with Destiny when it released. Like, where were you guys on the spectrum of, like, if you were to give it, out of 5, where would you put the game when it released? For me personally, 5 out of 5. Like, regardless of the story, Destiny 1 vanilla base game. Where were you at with the game when it released?
I was like, when it first released, I was like obsessed, 5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of saw behind the mirror a little bit, and then it became like a 3 out of 5. And then they kind of redeemed the whole thing with King's Fall?
Taken King.
Taken King, yeah.
Yeah.
that big ass
Taken King's
expansion.
where things really
Dude,
went.
they saved the entire like franchise with that shit.
They really
It
did.
became a 5 out of 5 instantly with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, my first experience is like, I enjoyed the game, but it had those problems in that story, man. When you got through that story, it was like, oh, I just remember going like, "Are you serious?"
Right? Like the
Yeah.
Black Garden, you're like,
It was
The
so bad.
story was lackluster, and I got something for you at the end of this
All
too.
until I did that first raid, man. That Vault of Glass with you,
Saved it.
And
Well, I have a
to turn
special-
things around, you start to realize, okay, there's greatness here. They just gotta build it up, and then it's been a emotional roller coaster since then.
Those of you
So,
that
I have a-
are listening, sorry, you're listening on audio. If there's ever like spontaneous laughs and you're like, what was said that was funny? It's what's happening visually, not what's happening audibly. So
Y'all need
I'll
to
just leave it
stop.
at
This
that.
is an audio podcast.
So
Go ahead,
I have a
Chris.
To
special
make it
case
worse, I'll show
this.
this cute dog video. Look at him,
couldn't-
he's so cute.
I wasn't able to. I didn't have an Xbox because I couldn't afford one,
Ooh.
so I didn't get Destiny until the Taken King. But I was on board, and I didn't do my first raid at all.
You didn't
until Destiny
do
2.
any of the raids, right? Yeah,
until Destiny
Yeah,
2.
nothing.
because we took you
I
through.
was 100% single player until I met y'all.
Yeah.
That's how I played it.
Which, 100%, like any of you that are listening to this and you play games solo, I'm telling you, reach out. You know what? You can reach out to us, all right? You can tweet at us at Words to the Nerds. In the show notes, there's a link to our Discord. You can go to that, check us out, hop in there. We are a fantastic group. Playing with friends is so much better than playing solo in a lot of these games. And it's the way...
Yeah, enjoyable.
And it's the way games are going moving forward too, especially now we're getting closer to a cross-platform world with a lot of these games.
Yeah,
So
that's the jam.
if you play solo,
If we have Xbox and PC
Stop it.
crossplay, Lord help me.
Lord help me, especially in those raids. Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. For me, like the game, if I just played the game, through the story, whatever, did some strikes, I probably would have been 4 out of 5 because even the strikes were crazy difficult, and the Nightfall was crazy difficult. That when you finally got it done, it was like, holy crap! Like this is crazy impressive. But the raid in itself just changed the game because no one had done that before, not
Yeah, no,
in a style like
exactly.
Destiny had, and it was just
For a shooter, yeah, that was something
Yeah.
that had never been done.
exactly for first-person shooter. So it definitely was incredible. So for us, we are a little bit on the bias side. So I'm a little harsh on Bungie in this. I'll give you that because there's some things that were going on internally that even though I'm a huge Bungie fan and I love Destiny, I just want to put everything out there that was going on during the making of Destiny.
The early road was very tough, and I mean, you even notice more now how much being away from Activision has really freed them in just
Yes.
small amounts.
Yes. However, when
But it
all
wasn't
three
Activision's fault.
when all three of these are released and listened to, I
It wasn't
am a
all Activision's
little
fault.
worried for the future of Bungie. But we'll get to that in part 3 because I don't want to talk about some of these in here because once this is all said and done, Bungie has made multiple mistakes in the past to where it's like this may be a blessing and they'll be able to do their own thing. However, time will tell because Shadowkeep is the first expansion of
Yeah.
Bungie being on their own.
If it's not
we don't have it out
successful,
yet.
that hurts really bad for
Yeah.
them, yeah. And like it's weird, yeah. I mean, you see moments in time in the game's life where you can see where at times where they're not sure where they want the identity of the game to be,
Mhm.
and other times where it seems like they really, really knew. And what I'm hoping for Shadowkeep is they finally find their concrete definition of what this game really is.
I think one thing that they have going on in their favor now that they didn't have in the past is that right now it seems like Bungie knows what Destiny is, and as I want to go through this, they did
defining
not
it
at all.
as an MMO and things
Yeah.
like that, and stuff I think they always wanted it to be. but Activision kind of contraried, and they're like, you don't want to call it that and things like that, and
So
it
the
caused
more
confusion.
the more and more that I was like digging into the story, like the more and more I felt like it was similar to Anthem's story that we got, because like a lot of the core fundamental issues that Destiny had before the release, one of the main differences those where Anthem lacked leadership. I would say Bungie had too much leadership, and lacked structure and organization. Like after Bungie parted ways with Microsoft back in 2007, the team had a bunch of very talented guys with a bunch of great ideas. However, they all had a vision for very different games, and this ultimately would lead to a fractured studio and dozens of important people leaving in the company, or leaving the studio during and after Destiny. The list of names is actually quite shocking, and the fact that Destiny even released in the state that it was is nothing short of a miracle. So
Yeah, I feel like you even look back at Halo and like, despite how highly regarded those games and how great they are, they didn't have clean development cycles. Like,
well, I think we're seeing a lot now
that
that'll.
Those games had to be entirely scrapped and reworked, and
Yeah,
they went through it a couple times, but pulled through.
I want to say I think it's more evident now more than ever that the way these games are made and developed is like kind of out of control. Like it seems like no game is developed like just smoothly and like, oh, okay, everything's fine. It seems like there's issues, whether we hear about it or not. There's always like an issue in there.
I think it's like a hot topic to talk about too. So like it gets reported on a lot.
Definitely, especially with crunch, which there definitely was crunch with Bungie here at certain parts, but we'll get to that here in a bit.
That's going to happen anyway. To a point. There's expected crunch, and then there's this isn't good for people crunch.
Yeah, exactly. So Bungie became an independent studio on October 1st, 2007. Actually, the release of Shadowkeep will be the 12th anniversary for the studio, being, their own company. But the studio was thrilled to be on their own. They would not leave with their beloved franchise Halo, and actually they were still contractually obligated to release 2 more sequels in 2007. After that, Halo ODST and Halo Reach were still released under Bungie. But they did get to part ways with their development tools that they put together over the years as they embarked on Project Tiger, the next big venture for the company that would, of course, become Destiny. So, and those dates are correct as well. Destiny was in its conceptual stage in 2007, but didn't reach development cycle until 2010. So about 7 years was how long the game took to bake. And I'm telling you guys, the more you're going to hear about some of the to hear about this, some of the parallels to this and Anthem are pretty uncanny. So I'm gonna mention some names that go on and everything, but they all played important roles, and all maybe but one of these guys are no longer with the company. Jamie Griesmer, the development lead for the studio, was very excited to start on a new project. And for years, he had dedicated his time to Halo as much as he loved the franchise, and he felt it was over with, and he wanted to move on to a game that wasn't Halo. Tentatively, Dragon Tavern was the game that was the game that he was going to release. It was an MMO similar to World of Warcraft. In the basic design, it would be a world where people could team up with their friends, go on quests or dungeons, build their own tavern. It would be a third-person fantasy MMO RPG, like the furthest thing you could get from Halo. He just didn't want to do Halo anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
As Griesmer started to put his plans together, Jason Jones, who is a Bungie co-founder, had ideas for a first-person shooter where, unlike Halo, it was more of an open-ended story perspective where the player got to choose and mold the player he wanted to be. Griesmer and Jones wouldn't see eye to eye on the direction that they wanted to go on this. However, at the same time, they each liked ideas from both sides, and Griesmer had a lot of pull in the company as the lead design. However, ultimately the game would lean more towards Jones' idea, which thus birthed the first shared world first person looter shooter RPG. It's like a mouthful to say.
I think they should have gone with that instead of Destiny. You know,
Yeah.
that full
Yeah.
title.
So, yeah, share.
Schlooters, bro. They're schlooters.
Yeah. And if I sound off in my talking, I just want you guys to know that I have aligners now. I'm getting my teeth corrected, and so if I sound like I have a lisp sometimes, I probably do. It's typically not bothering me, but like sometimes I'm
Do you
talking a
want me
lot.
to go put mine in to make you feel better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Oh, I was just okay. Cool, whatever. But yeah. So I mean, like early on, it had the MMO style. And it had like the shooting style, and it sounded like they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but still like ultimately Griezmer wanted to like lean more towards a fantasy style third person, just not a sci-fi shooter, whereas Jones is very much like okay with it being a sci-fi shooter, but just didn't want the linear story like Halo did.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it seemed like it wouldn't be as much of an issue, but like later on down the road, and as I'm going through this, it definitely would be. But this was basically 2007, 2010, while the team's still working on the Halo projects. More and more as like ODST team finished up, that team would come and work on Destiny, or was still known as Project Tiger at the time. And then once the Halo Reach was finished up, then all of Bungie was now solely focused on Destiny, and by 2010 they were able to completely start working developing the project. So April 2010, Bungie needed to find a publisher for its new game, and they reached out to a bunch of different publishers: Sony, Microsoft, EA, even Nintendo, but ultimately they struck a deal with Activision for the $500 million 10-year plan that has been like toted around quite a bit.
Could you imagine if Destiny was a Bungie Nintendo exclusive?
Dude, you're gonna have to take those out. Do I sound like that?
No, you don't.
Grills?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that would have been
goodness.
crazy if a Nintendo.
Bro, those definitely do not fit me anymore.
Man.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah, could you imagine? Yeah, if Nintendo got, I mean, wow, that actually would have been crazy for Nintendo, but I don't know.
Like, instead of Zavala, it's Mario.
Can you imagine the crossovers that would be there? Oh my god.
It's a toad that won't shut up about her uncle like not giving stuff.
However, you know damn well.
Toad would be the Cryptarch, bro.
However, you do know damn well that if Nintendo did take it on, there would be like Zavala would be a player in Smash right now, or Cade 6.
Oh, or
Oh,
Jax.
dude, Cade 6 and Smash.
Oh man,
Jax.
It would have been worth it. It would have been worth it all.
yeah.
Dude, Shax is the best character in all of Destiny.
Shax would be an amazing. No, think about it. Here's the thing: you would have a Destiny-themed map, and it would be narrated by Shax while you're playing on that
I'm
map.
on board.
Oh,
Actually,
damn
that would be
it!
amazing.
Damn it! Now I wish Nintendo would have got this. Oh. Anyway.
That's a crazy deal though. 500.
Someone make that mod, please.
That would be
Yes.
incredible.
Oh
So
my god.
basically, Activision, they get the publishing rights for the game, $500 million to Bungie, 10-year plan. They let Bungie keep the IP, and it could release however they saw fit. So they had the rights to make the game how they wanted. That being said, the release schedule originally was pretty far-fetched, and here it is right now. It was going to go Destiny 1, DLC 1, DLC 2 within the first year, big expansion, or Comet is what they called it, the following year. Destiny 2 the following year after that, followed with a DLC 1, DLC 2 within that year, then Comet 2 the following year, and then Destiny 3 the year after that, so on and so forth. So the original schedule was for Destiny to release in 2013, so it would have been 2013, Comet 2014, Destiny 2 2015, another Comet 2 2016, Destiny 3 2017. That would have been the original schedule, basically.
Yeah.
clearly did not follow that schedule, and it's insane to think that they would be able to. I'm actually shocked that they signed a deal that looked like that.
Yeah, because the thing is, I feel like the way they always wanted it is to just be a single, ever-going game, like a real MMO.
Right.
But Activision wanted those numbers. They want to have those titles released. It's easier to market, easier to push. You get a brand new game, and then you get to refresh and get new players in each time.
I think Bungie was looking at that.
Both sides.
I think Bungie was looking at the
game.
Yeah, that $500 million thing. That was like, oh wow, this is great. This is what we need.
It's a big deal.
And
for a game company that just got went solo, having a big publisher is a huge important thing for them. It gives you security. Like, it's something you very much want, even if you are such a well-known name as Bungie.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
But even then, like that schedule just sounded crazy. But they agreed to it.
Impossible.
And the pitch was basically they were pitching Halo to Activision was what it was, and that's what Activision wanted. It was a sci-fi action shooter space opera, is what they basically described it as, and that's all Activision needed to hear. And just like that, they had the deal. So as this game would start to come together, where Griezmer thought they would split some of the ideas in the game, would be closer to fantasy, it was more and more looking like a Halo clone. So Griezmer started throwing like wrenches into some ideas and would ask questions along the way, like, okay, how are you going to make a first-person shooter, action game scale in the way like an RPG would, as far as power escalation? Or how are we going to make this transition to the next-gen consoles without sacrificing cool features for the previous gen? Very valid arguments, because as we know, Vanilla Destiny was extremely grindy. It didn't quite hit that balance that a lot of people wanted. And the Rise of Iron expansion was too ambitious and didn't even make it to the previous gen consoles. So his concerns basically end up like paying out, and he never actually solved it. But regardless, Bungie's board of directors would ask Griezmer to resign and leave the company. And this was in, I think, 2011, just because they just weren't seeing eye to eye with it. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
that's never a good look. Heading into a new game.
No, and this wasn't even the one that made, like, this didn't even make like the main news like during the development cycle, because all this happened prior to Destiny even being announced to the public.
Because people really didn't even know it was a factor yet.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
So, this was, I think up until 2011, maybe it was 2010.
They fired him before they even released the game.
They fired him before they released the game, and they fired him before it was even announced. Yeah, so Destiny, we didn't even know it. Because the thing is, Destiny was announced in February of 2013, and it was released a year and a half later. So it was a long cycle, but not as long as some. It wasn't, like Anthem was what, 2 years?
I think they're still working on that game, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Got him.
It's complete yet.
Every episode, baby.
Got him.
Wait, we need like a chalkboard to like.
Welcome to the.
up.
Yeah.
What we need to do is our first real guest. Sorry, Seikl, but our first real guest that we bring on the show needs to be like a developer for Anthem. That would be that should be the guy we bring on.
I don't want to make someone cry, dog.
Man,
He probably doesn't want to admit it.
well, the thing is, dude, the NDAs are real, And if you're a developer for any game company, you leak anything, you're not getting a job anywhere. So, yeah.
You did.
But so February 2013, Bungie reveals Destiny to the world. A shared world shooter that, not in their words, was Halo meets World of Warcraft. Which were, I'm trying to think, 2013, World of Warcraft would have been like on its third or fourth expansion, and which is still huge. And Halo's still, I mean, just coming from Halo Reach, which was just adored by everyone. It's just like everyone was like, "This is amazing. This is literally what I want." So
Yeah, I was thinking Halo and Borderlands having a baby, and I was like,
exactly,
oh my God.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Joseph Staten, next one on this chopping block of people that are no longer with Bungie.
Sad
Spoilers.
times.
Said it would be it said it would be a game that would unravel in chapters over time, but also the main story would be what you as a player would make it to be. So saying that it would be released with these crazy stories, but you ultimately were your own. You would create your own destiny. You know, that's the whole picture thing. Got
I
it.
get it now.
Got it.
Yeah.
They used the title, guys. You get it?
Title card.
Years. I got it.
Yeah. So the E3 demo they showed, where the infamous line, "Everywhere you see in this game, you can go," as he proceeded to throw a grenade off the edge of the map, where we all know once you walk off that edge, you immediately die. But
Dude, it was. You can't even walk 5 feet from where you were standing. It literally like instantly you walk past those cars, and it's like, nah, fam, go
No.
back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you could technically.
I don't know whose
For 10
idea it
seconds.
was. Or...
I literally like watching that now. I just imagine developers like, why would you fucking say that? You know, it's just like
That E3 conference still just makes me.
He's like getting confident, like rolling with it. He's
right.
being like, oh yeah, anywhere you can walk it. Look,
You can go anywhere. Yeah.
Still hurts, man. Still hurts.
Developer is like,
It certainly impressed the crowd, and it piqued the radar with everyone. As he also revealed Peter Dinklage as the voice as our primary companion. And as impressive as it all was, what we didn't know was this was one of the few missions that were actually completed at the time. There were a lot of issues going on internally, starting with the engine for the game that they were building alongside production of Destiny, which doesn't go well with any game. Anyone will tell you.
whether we want it or not.
Whether oh god.
The way you're sitting, you look like you're making like a country music like album cover. You're like sitting to the side with your hat on headphones. Like,
Ain't nobody tell him nothing.
I got my feet up.
So
I couldn't even tell until you pulled them forward.
to kind of explain of like how this engine ended up being, like building it while they're building the game, it's just so many issues can go wrong, and they are basically building tools as they need them. This was a quote that I grabbed from a Kotaku article that they put up back in 2015, but basically explains like the issue that we had with everything that happened in Destiny and why it took them so long to make any changes in the game. So here's the quote. "Let's say a designer wants to go in and move a resource node 2 inches," said one person familiar with the game engine. "They go into editor. First, they have to load their map overnight. It takes 8 hours to input their map overnight. So they get into the office in the morning. If their importer didn't fail, they open the map. It takes about 20 minutes to open. They go in, they move the node 2 feet. Then they would do a 15 to 20 minute compile just to do a half-second change. That is literally what would happen with any change that they did in it. So imagine like, okay, here's a list of stuff that we need to make a change to. Okay, we do all this thing. It takes like a full day to do it. You put all this stuff in there, do it overnight and everything. Get it all done. It's compiled and everything. All right, good. We can put this in there in the map and everything. Oh, wait, this is game breaking for this. So then it's like they have to do this again. And dude, just the time frame just to do simple changes like that was absolutely insane. So
yeah, and as the life of the game continued on, seeing how long it took them to make patches or fixes or balance changes, like you could just tell this engine for a game that's supposed to be ever evolving and changing and needs to be able to be changed at like the snap of a finger.
yeah,
It took like a month instead, and that hurts a game like this dramatically.
yeah. It just was not up to par. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that basically sums up a lot of the issues of the game. Like even now, when they need to make corrections or fixes to anything, It would take like weeks or months to just do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's insane.
the next issue was the story, headed by Joseph Staten here, and he's basically the mastermind to the entire story. So even though there had been voice recording lines and grimoire was being written, no one really knew what was going on other than Staten. And finally, Staten put together a supercut to reveal to the Bungie leadership, the Bungie heads, what the game was actually about. Two problems. First, Joe put this thing and edited it together himself, and when he finished the product, it was just flat out sloppy. It just wasn't put together well. That just wasn't his expertise. Second, and maybe the only other person that would have any semblance of what the story was about, was Marty O'Donnell, and he was on medical leave at the time. So when Joe decided to release the supercut, he didn't have Marty's guidance, because Marty would have been like, fuck no. Do not release this. No, this is not good. And with just the poor presentation he put together, Jason Jones decided that they were going to reboot the story 6 months prior to release because of this supercut that Joe put together early of what made sense in his mind. Everyone else is looking, it's like, what the fuck is this? So clearly there wasn't enough time
That's
to do
how
this.
I still feel.
Yeah, so clearly there wasn't enough time to do this, and
They didn't even have time to explain that they didn't have time, right? Or something like that.
exactly.
So
So both Staten and O'Donnell urged Jones to like consider, but it was to no avail. Staten, hold on, let me say this again. It was basically no avail doing this, and Staten would like end up leaving the studio that summer, which was summer of 2013. So
I remember hearing about this.
yeah, so although it wasn't formally announced until the fall, it was like the end of September or something. To sum up, hold on, I definitely deleted a line here when I put this together. But anyway, they didn't announce it. They didn't announce it until the fall, like when he would like leave. But he put together. It was actually, he left with a note that seemed pretty amicable, even though it was like on bad terms with it, and a lot of the people disagree, including Marty O'Donnell at this point. Marty O'Donnell is not on board with this reboot here at this point. But to sum up what Joseph Staten's story was that he put together, I'm going to mix basically between what I read on the wiki, a Kotaku article, and Blood, Sweat, and Pixels chapter on Destiny. And basically this is what the original story was for Destiny if it would have released without a change in it. So after the main tutorial, which is like in the game, like you start off, you're born, your ghost finds you, and then you go to your ship, and then you go to the tower. You're on a mission to find Rasputin, who has gone missing, and Rasputin is the only defense against the darkness and the Traveler, and the last city and the Traveler are both vulnerable. So as the story would bring you to many different planets early on, as opposed to what it did in the original story, on your search for clues where, like, to find Rasputin, you come across a character called the Crow, and we know him because he's been repurposed as Prince Uldren.
I remember him from the early trailer they had put out. They're on that early story trailer.
Yeah.
He was doing something completely different to how he appeared in the actual story.
Yeah,
and you could tell he was way more of a more important role. And I remember reading, I think, like a Game Informer article about him, and it was mentioning him as that character, and then it changed completely when the game came out. Yeah,
he was completely unrelated to Prince Uldren at the time. Prince Uldren was not a character, so they just repurposed him because he had the assets for it. So the character is the Crow, and he's described as an eccentric character similar to what Cade 6 became during the Taken King. So he had that kind of same mentality as Cade 6 did. So with him, you discover that Osiris, who has been in a Vex construct in Mercury, might have insight into where Rasputin is. So you meet Osiris on Mercury, and he becomes a mentor to you to help guide throughout the rest of the story. And along with him is an Exo partner who we know was repurposed as the Stranger, but that was his partner in there. as opposed
To
to
never
Brother
return.
Osiris, you know, in the game.
Oh, God.
So they help you discover that Rasputin has been taken by the Hive and taken to the Dreadnought on Saturn. So the last third of the game's story takes place on the Dreadnought as you battle the Hive to rescue Rasputin, who was who as the Warmind took control of an exo body, and that's how you go and get him back. So that was the original Destiny story on there. And I want to point out that Mercury came in Destiny 2, which was going to be a playable planet in the game, cut from the game. And then the Dreadnought, fully done, finished, was going to be part of the main game, was cut, and it was repurposed to put into the Taken King. So, one thing that drives me nuts, though, with this, when I read this, is that if Mercury was supposed to be a part of this in the original game, why was it so shitty when it came out in Destiny 2? Like, it seems like they've had this asset forever.
Bro.
It makes no sense.
They had hyped up this character Osiris for so long, and he just did absolutely nothing, and then just
he's
went
worthless.
back into the whatever it's called.
You
Made-
guys did work on Mercury, right?
It's like, oh, yeah. It's like, wait, didn't we scrap that?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Can I use my Sparrow on Mercury? That's all I'm asking. I mean,
Right.
the planet sucks.
I
Let me get through it as fast as I can.
I hate it so much.
It was bad. But last one little bit that I want to add to this is that with each mission, it would have started out with like full voice acting from multiple characters, not just Peter Dinklage, basically. And each mission ended with a 3 to 5 minute fully fleshed out cutscene, most of which were scrapped in the final product. So
Like Halo.
Joseph Staten made like an argument like, hey, we can fix this final cut. Like, I know it's not in the best shape, but we can fix this. But if you completely scrap it, we're in rough shape, which is ultimately what it ended up being. So lastly, we get to the music of Destiny, and I don't want to go into too much detail because we already discussed Martin O'Donnell in a previous episode. But basically, with the misunderstandings and arguments, right? Hey, go back and rewatch the episode. You know, there you go.
I don't like you guys that much.
Oh, dang.
But with the
Maybe if I was in the episode, I'd listen.
then you'd listen. Fair enough.
Yeah.
With the
Continue, please.
misunderstandings and arguments with management within Bungie, but mainly with Activision, O'Donnell was fired from Bungie April 2014, 5 months prior to release of Destiny. So, 3 huge guys that left this. Three major key ones that left prior to
Yeah, they were like
the game
face
releasing.
the company.
Yeah.
Type leaders.
And there was a ton of other people that left. I don't have like all the names for them, but very key roles. There's at least a dozen like big senior guys that had left the company prior to this game releasing. So there's just a lot of red
of the
flags.
people that we knew that made Halo what it is aren't really on that team anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. It's unfortunate that like they went through this prior to the release.
Yeah.
So here we are, 5 months out. So with the writers gone, lead music director gone, lead developer as well, as a handful of other senior leader and developers of the company either left or fired, Jason was left in a situation of revamping the story and putting together something somewhat coherent, but also open enough to let you as a player feel like the story isn't linear. He introduces a special team called Iron Bar, where he and the other top creators at Bungie, like art director Chris Barrett and the new design lead Luke Smith, would figure out how to cobble together a new, less linear plot of the game. And this small group of developers spent the next 2 weeks sketching out like new plot and figuring out how to fit the story missions they'd created over the past few years into this new overall story. And this ultimately led to the story that launched the public on September 9th. And it opened to, it was a 76 Metacritic score. But even that, I felt like didn't do it justice. It seemed like it was way more widely mixed reviews across the board because there was a lot of hate. Like 76 actually sounds pretty good, but there's a ton of hate.
game like that though, like AAA game with the pedigree following it, a 76 is bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
really, really
Anymore,
bad.
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, even like 80s get overlooked. Like typically, if you see a game in the 90s on a Metacritic score, that's like one of those where it's like, oh shit, I have to play this game. Type thing.
Yeah.
Anything less than that, it's like, oh, I'll wait for a Steam sale or Xbox or Sony sale or something like that. So,
That was like kind of before it was popular to bash on like AAA games widely. You know, like usually AAA would just be like, okay, yeah,
It
it's a
was the
90
first
plus.
one that I really remember. Just the whole group of people just piling on it.
Yeah.
All media
Like,
sources.
I don't remember anything before that.
The
really.
critics, the fans.
yeah.
The,
Well-
The only thing I could really
YouTubers.
think of was Halo Reach Armor Lock.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Universally hated, except for those who used it.
I think
You used Armor Lock. You don't deserve to listen to our stream.
I think prior to like 2013 and the like next gen consoles, just microtransactions weren't as egregious in these $60 titles as they are now, or like what they started to be, and so it just kind of all started to come to a head. It's like, I'm spending all this money on this game, and then you also release a game that seems half baked. Like, what the fuck? Like, it just seemed like it was being more and more of a thing. Because prior to this, like, there weren't a ton of games that there weren't games like Destiny that were shared world shooters that were constantly evolving. So like, they're constantly patching games nowadays, whereas before it wasn't like that. It's like, here's a finished product, and before it'd be like, oh, there's these glitches or Easter eggs, and
Yeah, and that's like,
yeah. We did it on purpose.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I hate to keep going back to it, but like it's the best example of basically what built this genre is Borderlands, and how Borderlands comes out. You know, it didn't have raid and stuff like that, but it had a long, coherent story that you could play through again, and it had a start and an end, and
yeah.
you know, and it was very clear and had a lot more time behind it compared to the other game, like Destiny. You know.
Because if you play a game like Destiny as a traditional player and you finish that
Mm-hmm.
campaign, you're like, I don't even know what I did. Like, I don't even know what I accomplished, you know. So
Yeah, and then it
I
came
can
out
see
with
the
four.
hate.
Then Borderlands comes out with 4 DLCs, and each one is also extremely lengthy. Like I can think of a Borderlands DLC that took as long, if not more, time to complete than Destiny 1's base story,
Yeah,
which is like, yikes.
I'm almost done here. Let me wrap up with at least part 2 of this and everything. We'll discuss a little bit more about this, but basically, after the mixed reviews on with the Metacritic score and then across the board, people bashing the game, they spent hours scouring through forums on their own personal site as well as Reddit to try and fix a ton of the most criticized parts of the games. This ultimately led to them rebooting the first DLC pack, the December 2014's The Dark Below, just a month before it was due to ship. Bungie put together a
3
team.
missions.
Yeah, Bungie put together a team and had them crunch out The Dark Below in 9 weeks. So that is
Yikes,
insane.
9 weeks?
9 weeks, dude. The crunch was absolutely real.
Does that count the
For
raid
that.
too?
Yes, yes, it included the
Yikes,
raid. That's
bro,
also
bro,
why.
this made it
That's why it was full of so many glitches and all that too. It was just,
Oh
it was
my
bad.
God.
They're not glitches.
That's actually
they're features.
impressive. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
They
Feature.
wanted them.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. I felt so bad for that. I mean, I think there was definitely turnover after that. Like, some of the developers just like, I'm fucking done.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it became very apparent very quick that the roadmap they had set out with Activision was unrealistic.
Yeah. So that
Not
exactly.
very flexible.
Yeah.
And that was even before everyone left.
You're right. So, following up on what you're just saying, like, back to the drawing boards and Destiny in shambles, Bungie reached out to Activision to renegotiate their new schedule, and there was no way they could release a new game in 2016, let alone like follow up with the rest of the schedule laid out to them. Some of the development was like spread out to another Activision development team, High Moon, to help with the workload, but ultimately the idea that Bungie pitched to Activision and not the other way around. Bungie pitched this to Activision. Look, we cannot maintain this release schedule. The demand is just too much. However, if we add in microtransactions with our Ingram system, we should be able to make enough money that we do not need to add in DLC. This was Bungie's pitch to Activision
What?
to
And then they
not
did
have to
both?
make the DLCs. Yes. So
You were supposed to bring balance to the force.
I just want to make
I
that
was
clear that
pissed
this.
when-
Sorry,
No,
go ahead.
I knew that. I knew that fact that Bungie were the ones who had recommended that.
Yeah, this is the first
Wow.
step to the Eververse. You know,
So
and you
that's-
can.
something
Bungie is
a-
Anakin
A lot of
Skywalker.
people don't know that. Yeah, Eververse was straight up Bungie's idea.
You can argue that it's like due to a strict schedule, and that's fair, but it was also agreed upon. But Activision agreed, and Destiny sequel would get pushed to 2017, and Destiny would just be working on Comet 1, which was the Taken King, and which was the Dreadnought originally stripped from the main game, and then Rise of Iron, not as big an expansion following the Taken King, but it was still a good size one. I think we all enjoyed Rise of Iron. I think the Taken King was
yeah.
fantastic, and then Rise of Iron was like, all right, I know what this game's about, and I'm definitely like all for it. But
It didn't
Yeah,
have
Rise
as
of Iron
much
was
as
awesome.
Taken King, but it felt like they were going at full drive. They had
Yeah.
got their swing.
That was
yeah.
like the Black Armory and stuff, right?
Mhm.
No, Black Armory is Destiny
No.
2. The Rise of Iron was when we're like there
Lord
with
of Wolves.
Lord of Wolves. Well, Lord of Wolves was
No,
that was listed.
that was before.
God dang it.
Oh,
Lord of Wolves was the second DLC.
yeah. No, you're looking at not Shaxx, but why can't who's the Iron Banner?
Saladin.
Yeah,
Yeah, Lord
Salad,
Lord
Hands.
Saladin, Salad Hands. Yeah.
Salad Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the last one, right?
Mm-hmm. And
That
that
was
had
the
the
last
Wrath
one
of the
for
Machine, the Wrath of Machine raid, which
one
was
of the coolest
Wait,
raids.
Wrath the Machine was Destiny 1?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly-
Because the first
Shoot
one.
the shanks.
Yeah.
Shoot
Yeah.
the shanks.
First
Shoot the
one
shanks.
in Destiny 2 was the.
Honestly, like that
Do you
one is
remember
still
Shoot the
gorgeous.
Shanks?
I do remember Shoot the
That's-
Shanks.
Probably the most aesthetically pleasing raid of
The
any
first
of them
time, like
still.
when you go into like that vault, like
that like
you-
War Mind Vault.
yeah, like
Thing.
oh man, that was just so
The
cool
red
looking.
and the black.
Dude.
Man, was cool.
That really rise my iron.
The raids and just like
God damn.
the thing that saved Destiny were the raids and just how fun the gameplay loop is with friends.
Yes,
And
100%
that's the
agree.
thing. Despite all its issues and like the story problems and things like that, Bungie knows how to make an extremely smooth and addictive gameplay loop.
Yeah,
And playing that with friends is still just like above a lot of other games.
Didn't they say, like, friendship is the end game?
Yeah. Yeah.
they did say that. They did say that.
on
They
DT
did.
or something.
Oh man.
Yeah, they got hell for that.
That's all. That's all I got as far as this, and I would definitely continue talking with it. But I just want to state that the majority of this information was basically thanks to Jason Schreier, because he did a ton of research into all of this, deep diving. Like, this is not something that I put together on my own. Look at the Kotaku article, The Messy True Story Behind the Making of Destiny. That was written back in 2015, has a lot of insight. And if you have not read Blood,
It's a
Sweat, and
very
Pixels
interesting
yet,
read.
oh man, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels is a fantastic book. And Chapter 8 covers Destiny. And it's a whole hour that goes into much more detail than what I just put in here. So highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in more
Now,
of this. But
did you
this
actually read
sums
that,
up
Carter, or
these.
did you do audiobook?
Audiobook, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
might
did.
start doing that for my drive to
Dude,
do.
audiobooks are the bomb. That's
It's-
all. That's how I do books only
'Cause-
now.
Yeah.
Because I used to listen to music when I
great.
drive, and now like I just do music when I'm doing homework and stuff like that. So like, I want to just do podcasts while I drive or audiobooks.
Yeah.
I guess.
Start doing
Yeah.
audiobooks.
Podcast and Audible, highly recommend. It's the easiest way to take. Because like the thing is,
Yeah.
nobody has
Hey,
time
yo,
to sit down and
Audible,
read
if you're
anymore.
Out there, support us. We'll give you free shout-outs now, but next time it's gonna cost money.
We're already subscribing because we love it so much.
Yeah, you heard it
man.
first here. This one's free. This
I'll-
one's free, Audible.
I'll reach out to Audible and like see if I can set up to where like anyone that subscribes to Audible gets a free credit when you listen to this. Ooh, that's some money in the bank.
If we get an Audible code, man, we've made it. We
We
did
then.
it.
Yeah,
But they
do
do
a
a lot of
Audible.
Nathan, we made it.
They have a lot of really good exclusives too, and I mean, not to talk it up, but I've really enjoyed that, and it's got me back into books because I just can't do reading anymore. And
Same.
I just can't concentrate.
Neither can I.
I'm way too.
Literally, like if I'm gonna sit down and read, it's going to be while I'm in bed. I'm either gonna fall asleep or I'm gonna get bored after a chapter and do something else. But like at least listening, I could, because I'll do mindless work all the time, and so listening to something and picking it up, but especially driving. When you're driving, it's just like you're not doing anything else. It's like that is the best time to just soak it in, because like literally it's just
you have the book.
I still love
I've
the
seen
content.
someone do that straight up. Had a newspaper. It was
I
all-
hate that.
No way.
What the fuck?
I've seen it all. I've seen
Idiots.
people shaving, like doing all this crazy stuff, bro. Makeup.
What drives me
That speed bump was just walking.
What drives me up the wall is those people that have like one leg outside of their window while they're driving. I fucking hate it. And I just like every time I see that, I'm like, you're gonna get in a car accident and die, or at the very least lose your leg, and it is your dumbass fault.
I also hate the ones where they do their leg over in the passenger seat over the airbag, like on the dashboard. I'm like, if you get in a wreck, your knees are gonna be in your jaw. Like
like you're just sandwiched on.
Dude, I had a friend, man. He was just terrifying to drive with every time, and I remember he used to just take his knees, and he'd just put his knees up. He'd just drive with his knees and like not be paying attention at all. And somehow he's still hitting the gas because his legs are so long. I'm just watching this happen, like, looking over at him, like, bro, what is happening right now? He's like not even looking at the road, like swerving through cars. I'm like,
Like, yo, can you reach down and
Freak
hit
me
gas?
out. That would freak me out. God dang.
dude.
So
it was terrifying.
my Lyft driver yesterday straight up told me, "Oh, I go a little faster than the posted speed limit." I'm like, "Oh, cool. You saying it out loud makes it legal." Like,
Oh, yeah, no,
Thanks for
appreciate
warning
it.
me ahead of time, at least.
yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that is how I drive. Like, whatever the speed limit is, I go 5 miles over because I never get pulled over doing that. So,
He
come
was
at
like
me,
20
cops.
over, so-
oh, okay. Well, that's too much.
He
That's
was also
more-
bragging that he could. He also bragged that he got his Dodge Charger to 120 miles per hour. I was like, looks
Dang.
pretty
One of those
stock,
guys.
bro. I don't know. Yeah, it was a really weird.
That is
ride.
stock, because don't the cop chargers go up to 137? I'm pretty sure that they definitely are able to crank that up faster than anything you'd be able to buy on the open market.
I wonder what the Hellcat does.
Well, I'm sure a lot of these do, but
138.
they have governors on these.
139.
Knock out.
Hellcats can go fast. I remember my buddy. We were driving down the highway. Another friend of mine, and he had like a just a big like SUV, like 6-seater, like or 7-seater, We're going down the highway for like a soccer game or something, and this guy drove by us going like 90 to 100. And he just had the craziest mustache we had ever seen in our lives. We're like,
Jeez.
oh my god, did you just see that? I'm like, yes. And we're like, we have to see it again. So he sped up as much as he could. We tried to catch up.
Oh my
This dude was
god.
driving a normal car, and then his car just like bounced. Like we skipped for a second, and it sounded like it was gonna die. And then we just slowed down. We're like, okay, nope, this ain't happening. We never got to see
insane.
the mustache again, but it was legendary.
Wow. That it.
Dude, my Ford Fusion flies, baby.
Oh, does it?
One-cylinder engine.
The
It
Fusion.
runs on double A.
Geo Metro.
Wow. I'm jealous.
It's a one-cylinder, like.
Oh yeah, well my Geo Metro.
Yeah,
like,
crank.
my aunt had this car that was so tiny.
I can just see Sean in downtown New York cranking his car down the road.
God.
Maybe it's like Flintstones. You just pedal it.
Oh my god, dude. Yabba dabba doo.
You should see the calluses on my feet.
Oh man.
Man, we got properly distracted this time.
We got probably distracted.
It
No,
wasn't
it's
me this time. It wasn't
it's
me.
good.
It's
This
okay.
episode
I
did
love
go
it.
on a little long and everything. So we probably I don't even have questions prepared unless any of you guys have like a question at all.
I actually have one question that came in.
Yes. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's from. And he says, "Why would anyone ever waste calories eating pasta?"
Get out of here. You're done. You're done. It's over.
I actually had pasta tonight, so and it was
Dang.
delicious calories. They were
You know,
worth it.
I've gone on. I'm still. I would say I'm doing keto, but I don't think I'm sticking as strict as it should be, like being under like the 20 or 30 grams of carbs. However, I've kind of got to the point where I think I'm gonna continue and try and maintain just a low carb lifestyle. You know,
Feels
'Cause
good, right?
it hasn't affected me in a way that I thought it would, and even though I do miss some foods, like I can still get like chicken and broccoli at a Chinese restaurant, no problem. Like, yeah, like there might be some cornstarch and be like, oh, there's still carbs in that. It's like, yeah, but that's still relatively low carb, so I can still enjoy that stuff. You know, there's just wings, peanut butter.
Honestly, the big one is just cutting out sugar. Like you feel so.
That's the
much
main
better.
thing. Like
That's what I've
so
been
much
doing.
better.
That
That's a tough
freaked me out. One of our guys in our Discord posted, I think it's FU is the name of the documentary on sugar.
Yeah.
Oh man, you will not want to eat
It's
food after that.
insane, right?
Yeah.
Especially here in America,
Mhm.
like they put sugar in.
Dude, just
It's yeah,
nuts.
it's
like I
crazy.
stopped drinking pop on a regular, like that
Good.
made such a difference.
Right?
I don't unless it's final time or like really rare occasions, I just don't drink caffeine anymore. And like I'm fine. I can wake up, get stuff done. Like I'll be tired when I'm tired, yeah, but like
Yeah.
It makes
I-
such a difference.
I don't need caffeine, and like people get addicted to it. They just need their coffee, bro. Like I understand, but
Whoa.
like
I could stop anytime I
Let's
want.
leave coffee at it.
Yeah,
see,
I
that's
don't
what it's
like
though,
caffeine
right?
is something that I think I'm 100% addicted to, because if I'm not drinking coffee, I'm drinking iced tea. And honestly, it's just like it's my go-to because
Does
I
iced tea really
prefer.
have caffeine?
Yeah, it's got
Yeah, tea
caffeine in it.
Does it?
It's not nearly as much as coffee, but it's definitely
Yeah,
got
yeah,
got
obviously.
caffeine
Well,
in
and
it.
it depends
I've
on
never
the
thought of
tea
that. I don't
you
drink that
use
either.
also.
So
Yeah.
I never thought of it.
But I mean, it's just for me. I drink water, but I can't just sit there and drink water all the time. And like unsweetened iced tea is like a go-to for me. But like I kind of skim down on the coffee a little bit,
Oh,
but
man.
for me it's not. I'm just not as much. I do know
Here's
it
the thing
dehydrates
that
you though.
People always
Caffeine.
call me crazy for it. I can drink like a liter of sparkling water a day.
I like sparkling water.
I
I
can't do
There's
that.
love.
nothing
I
like
can,
a
I
good
live on sparkling water.
coffee.
Not like club soda,
Yeah.
you know, where it has
Tea
like salt
coffee.
in it. Just
Tea coffee.
just straight up sparkling water.
Oh my
I
god.
love that stuff, man. I can drink it all day.
But yeah, it's
Love
really,
a
whenever
good
like
gabagool.
the one thing of like trying to like maintain low carb and everything, when I'm looking at anything, I'll look and see like how many carbs are in this. Oh, it's got 30. Damn. And then I look at the sugars. Oh,
Yeah.
it's because 30 grams are sugars on it, you know. And it's like,
Dude.
but yeah, monitoring the sugars, like it's insane. It's
You
insane.
know what's the low key
So
killer?
difficult.
Yogurt.
Yeah, what the
Yes.
fuck, yogurt? You're supposed
Yeah.
to be
Yogurt
healthy.
hacks on the
Bullshit.
sugar big time.
Yeah, yogurt's fucked up. But luckily,
Man,
my
it's so
cheese is
good.
safe. Cheese is like my new crutch.
Ooh,
On some
dude,
of
I
this
love
stuff.
The
cheese.
savior.
Hell
Mhm.
yeah. They got like
Yeah.
these like little salad crouton things that are just 100% baked cheese.
Oh yeah, I got one of those before.
good.
So.
Ooh, I'll have to check those out.
Yeah,
Damn,
dude,
now you're making me hungry, and it's like the end of the night, and I definitely shouldn't
Yeah.
be eating. So
It was
you know.
Sam's fault, distracting.
Sam.
Oh man, you guys got anything else?
Nope.
Nah.
That
Well,
was my only question.
We're gonna carry
Oh.
this a long time.
it is gonna go on forever. But again,
we're
this
gonna be
is
pissed.
this is part 2 of Bungie. We still have part 1 coming and part 3 coming, so don't you worry. It'll be out of order. I haven't decided which one. Matter of fact, we might do
You're the
part
worst.
3 next, and then part 1 may come out closer to like Halo's announcement stuff coming out, you know, just to kind of match up with the dates.
I want this episode to get super popular, and I want to have people confused tweeting at our Twitter like, where do I watch episode 1? I really enjoyed it.
Right?
Why
They're
does
gonna
that
get
guy
real
make fun?
confused.
Like,
Oh well.
I kind of want like the logo for this one to be like Bungie equals Anakin Skywalker question mark, with the microtransaction thing.
That'd be real confusing, but I'm 100% for it.
That's like good clickbait.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be our
Post
niche.
that part out, but it's
Confusing. Even we don't know what's happening.
We have no idea what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah, everyone just needs to have
Get
our
those
faces with
numbers.
question marks because like we're so confused
you're
with what the
infringing on my creative process.
thumbnail is.
Yeah, we need like the Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Underestimate
With
my
question marks.
power. I hate you.
And we've digressed into an anime. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening to the Wordness to the Nerdness podcast. Catch us again here every Thursday. That just sounds wrong. I know that's not right. I said something wrong. Anyway, until then, stay nerdy, friends.